Big Sioux crested at 44.8 feet at 3:30 this morning. That's a record of over 7. It will change what happens on the Missouri as well. Now that that has moved through, we're going to continue to stay active on the Missouri River, but it is bringing us some better news as to what those water levels will be. That means that the James River and the Vermilion River will crest at a different point in time, which will help us spread out and thread out this water flow. The James River is still projected to crest at Yankton on Wednesday. It's projected just 0.4 feet higher at 24.7. That later time frame, though, does help us very much. As the water moves through, it's going to improve our situation here because all of the water won't be hitting us at the exact same time. It also looks as though the Vermilion River will hit a record at Wakanda, but it also is more spread out than predicted. It's impacted more farmland, so it's lowered by several feet. It's covered more acres, but that also means that it is going to bump the Missouri up, but probably not quite as high as we had originally anticipated. The later and the lower crest levels gave us some time that we need to upgrade some levees that we needed to get done and get accomplished. There were some evacuations that happened last night. I know that we had the IMAC team and the Swiftwater Rescue Team out of Sioux Falls and Game Fish and Parks were going door to door, getting people out of dangerous situations, and we lost some houses as well. So my heart goes out to those families that lost their houses. We saw some significant water coming in over North Shore Drive. I know that McCook Lake was dramatically impacted, and those homes have experienced some significant loss. I know that because of the levee system, that is the emergency plan that's followed by North Sioux City, and it was planned and followed successfully, that the industrial park and all of North Sioux City was saved from traumatic damage, but we did see some at McCook Lake, and we saw houses that were significantly impacted. We do have plans in place for a reason. These emergency plans have been in place for many years and have been agreed on by the communities. And while unfortunately mitigated doesn't mean that you can avoid all losses, there are significant losses to many families. And so we're here to offer what support and shelter and help that we possibly can to those individuals that are suffering with those financial and home losses today. We believe that we can open up the interstate by tonight. We're hopeful the water will go down enough. We had previously thought that it would be closed for several days, but because of this change in the situation, we think we could open it up a little bit quicker. I do want to take a minute and thank all of our emergency responders, our volunteers, our local governments, our contractors who worked like crazy yesterday to get levees built, and also state employees and those volunteers who are down here helping people, taking action to prevent further damage. They worked so hard and they worked through the night. And I know that we had many, many dozens of DOT employees helping with traffic control, detours, and constructing levees. And what I would say for all those individuals, it would be helpful if we could have people stay home and stay out of the flooded areas so we could give some people a little bit of chance to rest. We had many Game Fish and Parks employees that have been on 24 hours a day since this started several days ago. And that incident management assistance team is here from the Department of Public Safety. That is coordinated through the Office of Emergency Management, and they'll continue to be involved. There are experts that have come from all over the state and from neighboring states if they have the time to come, and we've appreciated all of them working to help rescue people and help keep them safe. These next few days are going to be tough, and the next few months to restore some of these homes and families back are going to be difficult, but it does mean that we also still need to remain alert and be helping our neighbors. We have damaged roads, we have damaged bridges. We did lose a Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad bridge. That is the main bridge going into Iowa that a lot of commodities and different materials move on throughout the state. And between us and those, that river collapsing and going down the Big Sioux last night was a big loss for us. That'll impact us for many, many months to come. The levees have been improved, and we were prepared as best as we could for what came our direction, and we'll continue to stay vigilant for the next several days. We do have Congressman Dusty Johnson with us this morning, so I'd like to give him an opportunity to share some of the federal FEMA stuff that we discussed yesterday and let him share some insight into how that program works as well. And I want to thank him for being here and available to all of us.
Well, clearly flooding is a tragedy, and our hearts go out to those people who are affected. Some of the factors that I think can mitigate the size of the tragedy are leadership, capacity, and then community. As Chief of Staff to Governor Dugard back in 2011, I saw how those factors came to play And I'm seeing those same factors today. First off, leadership. I've been able to observe the governor and her team, as well as the incident commander. There's a remarkable level of situational awareness and engagement. These are people who give a damn. These are people who know their business. These are people who are engaged in a very real-time analysis of what needs to happen. That leadership is going to mitigate the sizes of the challenge. Number two, capacity. You can't develop a swift water rescue team overnight. You can't assemble the skilled technicians and the machinery necessary to put up a levee quickly and safely overnight. It takes years to build that kind of capacity. That capacity exists, and these communities are better off because of it. And then finally, a community, people helping people. We saw that in 2011, we saw it in 14, we saw it in 19, and of course we're seeing it now. And there is simply no substitute. We can talk about government, and government, of course, is important, but you also need real humans reaching out and doing what they can to help. Two other notes. The governor, of course, mentioned federal assistance. Our delegation's play is going to be, as it always is, and that is to back our governor's play. When she makes a request for a declaration by the president, we will go to the mattresses to make sure that the administration understands that when she asks for something, it's because she needs it. It's because these communities need it. It's because these families need it. Obviously, data collection continues, and we don't know exactly what decision the federal administration will make with regard to things like individual assistance, although I can tell you, having seen some of the damage, having a sense of how high these waters are, I would be surprised if there will not be a robust federal assistance when we talk about recovery. And then finally, with regard to the BN bridge that the governor mentioned, our team is in contact this morning with BN. We're in contact with transportation officials, with the administration, and with the U.S. House. We are still trying to get an assessment of what are the ripple impacts of that. I don't yet know. What does that mean for biofuels? What does that mean for basis on grain? What does that mean for aggregates? But as we get that assessment, obviously we'll be providing that information to the governor and to the communities, and we stand by ready to help however we can. Thanks to the governor for allowing us to participate.
No, it's been great to have Dusty here this morning too, because he can carry that message back to Washington, D.C. on getting our FEMA declaration and ask processed quickly. Remember, we have 30 days now from the end of this flood event to collect what the losses are. We have to hit a threshold statewide of $1.6 million, which we will hit for sure. We are working with 21 different counties that are impacted, and remember, there's other communities that are suffering as well. We have Mitchell and Yankton and all those along the river that are dealing with flooded basements and houses that are gone and damaged property, but right here is certainly one of the areas that we're seeing that is the crisis situation that needs to be dealt with today. Also, individual assistance may be available. We'd ask people to continue to keep their costs and log those at this point in time, and we'll see if we can hit qualifications for that as well as we go forward. I'd like to introduce Jason Westcott. He's the Emergency Management Director here in Union County. He's been working with everybody. He'll give you a few updates as to what is happening here on the ground, what has been changing. And one more reminder on FEMA, that it's when FEMA does come in and respond to the emergency declaration and the executive order that I signed 2 days ago, I think, 75% of the cost is covered by the federal government, 15% of the cost is covered by the state, and 10% is local. And that will help us dramatically with some of the infrastructure repairs that we'll need to make into the future. So with that, Jason, do you want to come up and share a few words wherever you are? There you are.
Thank you, Governor.
He's still awake.
Thank you, Governor Noem. What occurred yesterday was a result of a mitigation effort. Mitigation is designed to lessen the effects of flooding in our area and also lessen the effects on critical infrastructure. If we did not take the mitigation efforts that we took yesterday, much of North Sioux City itself would be underwater. We are continuing to work with the residents of North Sioux. We are here for you. We feel the impact along with you as a county, as a state, and as a city. The IMAT team is here in place, working closely with me along with the governor's office at the state level. We are currently working on opening up a donation site here in North Sioux City. We are also working on opening a sheltering center for displaced residents sometime later today. We are also working with the city of North Sioux City on a debris management plan. so that when people are able to start getting to their homes and determining what kind of condition their homes are in and may have debris, that we can get proper disposal of that debris coming out of those residents. I ask that you please follow Union County SD Emergency Management Facebook page. We have been posting data hourly, sometimes up by the minutes, of what is occurring. So we're trying to keep that updated, so if anybody needs information, that is the site to go to currently. We are also asking everyone, this includes residents, to stay out of the flooded areas. Lots of these flooded areas are very dangerous at this time. We have large sinkholes in some areas, we have rushing rapid water in some areas, so we're asking everyone, please stay away from these flooded areas. Do not attempt to go out to those areas and try to see what's going on. It is too dangerous at this time. We would also like to thank all the first responders that have responded to all these incidents. We have a large group of first responders down here in North Sioux who have been working continually since this has started. We also have a large group from outside of this area that have come to the area to assist. So I would like to greatly thank all of our first responders. A lot of us are running very low on sleep. We're starting to get kind of thin, but we are continuing to fight when we need to fight. Thank you, guys. Governor Noem.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jason. And I'd like to invite up Tim Cowan to share a few words. He's with our Department of Ag and Natural Resources, but he's a geologist that has studied water flows and has been helping us a lot with mapping and modeling, trying to figure out how the water is moving, how quickly it's moving, and where these river levels are at, and what we can do in working with the Army Corps of Engineers on releases. So Tim, do you want to come up and share a few words?
Thank you, Governor. The Governor gave you some good information on the current state of the rivers and what we're expecting over the next few days, and I just want to shed a little bit of light on that topic. So we're really dealing with multiple rivers that are creating this event, but the one that's really the topic today is the Big Sioux River. That's what's creating the problems we're seeing here in the North Sioux City and eastern part of Dakota Dunes area. I think where we're at right now with water levels in this area is the maximum that we're going to see. The next gauge upstream from here is the Jefferson gauge, and that gauge we've been monitoring. It has peaked and is actually on its way down, which means that the water levels coming from up north are going to get less and less. The Sioux City gauge has peaked as well. It's not on its way down yet, but we expect that later today we'll start to see that gauge drop off. And at that point, when both of those gauges are dropping, we really should start seeing significant drop in water levels in this area. The one thing about this flood, because there's been so much volume coming down, is that those peaks are staying up there for quite a while, for hours at a time, instead of just coming and going quite rapidly. So that's why we're seeing the maximum inundation that we have here stick around for a while. Now the other part of the equation here is what's going on the Vermilion River, the James River, and being released out of Gavins Point Dam. And I'll start with the easy one, and that's what's currently being released out of Gavins Point Dam. The Corps tells us they're at 24,000 CFS right now and intend to stay that way for a while. Because inputs to Lewis and Clark Lake have become less, it doesn't seem likely that they would raise those releases out of Gavins Point Dam, and hopefully we may even be able to see some reduction in those releases in a couple of days. The James River would be the next input into the Missouri River downstream of Gavins Point Dam that will impact this area. That river has not peaked yet. It's anticipated to peak at about 35,000 CFS, and that will happen sometime during the day probably on Wednesday, and we'll see that water here shortly afterward. The Vermilion River would be the next river that's inputting to the Missouri downstream from there. It also has not peaked. And it's a wild card. The National Weather Service is having some real trouble trying to figure out what's going on there. And so the number that it's going to input to the Missouri is jumping around quite a bit, but they're starting to settle on somewhere between 20 to 30,000 CFS that it will input into the Missouri. So with the timing on this, because that will also happen sometime on Wednesday, and it will take a while for that water to get down here, our feeling is that the Big Sioux will obviously be past its crest and will have dropped enough that we'll be seeing drops in the Missouri by the time those pulses from the James and the Vermilion get here. So I don't anticipate that the Missouri River later in this week would get any higher than it is today, and actually would be lower than it is today. Thank you.
No, that's great. Thank you for that. And Moose, did you want to share anything? Do you have, I don't know if you have an update for us as far as the Army Corps of Engineers goes.
Yes, ma'am. Governor, Congressman Mike Welch, Gavin's Point Corps of Engineers, flows in, as Mr. Cowman said, flows into Lewis Clark Lake have lowered. Gavin's Point discharge right now is 24,000 cubic feet. Fort Randall's at 3,500 cubic feet to maintain infrastructure at Fort Randall. And we will monitor with the state and stay in communication if we can possibly look at lowering the discharge levels from Gavin's Point. And we are partnering with everybody. Technical assistance is being provided. Corps of Engineers stand by to do what we can to help.
Thank you so much. And you just available for questions? Okay, sounds great. Does anybody have any questions for the folks that are up here today? Yes, sir. Bill.
Mr. Cowan,
Yep.
do you anticipate Highway 81 north of Yankton at the James River needing to shut
I'm gonna have you
down?
come over to the microphone though when you answer, Tim, so the press can get you.
So flows on the James River are peaking near Scotland and just sort of headed toward Yankton. So it is hitting that critical area. I'm not sure how far away the water level is from 81 right now, so I can't say for sure whether or not it would be shut down.
Thank you.
Yes.
Regarding McCook Lake, I don't know who can answer this. Do we know how many houses are gone, have been wiped out, have collapsed?
No, we don't. They're out there assessing that right now. There still is significant water there. We do know that there's a pretty high level of houses and range of damage to houses. So we'll continue to gather that information and get it to you as soon as we can. Yes.
Yeah, for Jason.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on the dunes? Is there any flooding on the southern part of the dunes, and then to the west at Windstone and Rivertime Estates that took it so hard in 2000?
Currently at this time, we're not aware of any flooding located in the dunes area. Windstone has taken efforts and mitigation efforts and is not currently taking on any water. Riverland Estates, we do have a couple of homes out there that have become inundated, and they are out there taking efforts to kind of lessen that damage on their residents out there. That's kind of an area that's flooded several times before, so the residents out there are kind of used to what they need to do to kind of shore up their houses and do some mitigation.
The levee improvements that they have done in the dunes on the southern side since 11, have those?
Yes, everything is
that
assisting.
this time and-
Yep, everything is assisting. They actually went out yesterday and did some more levee work, added a couple extra feet on some levees in certain areas, strategically placed sandbags in certain areas, just to ensure that if the waters were to rise to where we believe they were gonna, that they would be okay.
Okay. Are you still asking people to evacuate if necessary?
At this time, we're just kind of using it as a precaution. We do not believe that the Missouri is probably going to come up and get into the dunes at this time. So,
We still believe it would be beneficial if people stayed out of the dunes voluntarily, stayed evacuated throughout today, and especially until we can start to see the interstate open back up and get that levee removed. So today would be wonderful if people would still voluntarily stay evacuated out of the dunes area until we get a lot of this water flow and the high levels of the Big Sioux through the system. Then we'll know more at what we're looking at. As you can tell, clearly things change quickly. Yesterday afternoon was an interesting afternoon and evening because of how quickly the water came and how fast we had to take action to put in place the mitigation efforts. So we'll continue to stay tuned, but we've got better and better information all the time, and we now can continue to see that all three of these rivers coming into the Missouri River aren't going to be hitting at the same time, and that is good for us because what we're probably seeing now as far as levels on the Missouri are probably the highest that they will be. And we'll maintain that for several days, but we'll also keep working with the Corps of Engineers to see what we can do as far as creating some capacity at Lewis and Clark Lake if possible, and continue to protect this area of the river and the water levels we might see in the future.
Will you still continue to do daily updates?
You know, it'll depend on what they'll look like and how we'll continue to do it, but yes, if we continue to see water levels like this, there'll always be updates. They may change location depending on which community we're in. You know, as those other rivers hit up by Yankton or even I know in Mitchell they're struggling with some water issues as well, they may come from different parts of the state as well. Yes.
Morning, Governor.
Morning.
One of the things that we're being impacted by in Dakota Dunes and North Sioux City is that the semi trucks are not following the detour. They're thinking they can come up farther to go west. And there's no way for them to go. Just coming over here from Dakota Dunes exit, I followed 3 semis that are now trying to figure out one turned west and one went north, and they're going to run into nothing.
Okay.
So they have to turn around eventually and go back. I don't know if there's anything we can do to get a message out to them, you know.
Yeah, we're going to have to put some effort out there then to redirect that traffic and make sure that they're not. Yes.
Speak about that just
Sure.
a quick moment. So we have been in touch with South Dakota DOT and also Iowa DOT. As always, we have a human factor in play here. The Iowa signboards are up saying that we are closed this way. South Dakota 511 and Iowa 511 are both reporting there's a closure this way. So people should be well aware this area is closed. Problem is, not everybody reads that and understands what's going on, and they believe that, well, I can get up there and I'm getting around it, but that's not the case. So as we reiterated before, South Dakota 511, Iowa 511 are both showing the closure in this area. So, okay?
I think probably for you.
Okay.
The water came into McCook Lake extremely fast yesterday. Do you have an
Yes.
estimate on how many people your team had to rescue or had to help out of their homes with how quickly that water came in?
At this time, I do not have a specific number. What occurred, kind of like Governor said, we started out with a low flow, and at that point we were very comfortable. But it picked up very rapidly to within about 30 minutes. At that point, we were already getting ready to deploy swiftwater rescue teams because we knew we were going to have an issue. A lot of people were able to get out of their homes by themselves, get their belongings, get in a car, and get out of that area. It came to a point where North Shore got so inundated that we started deploying boats. That occurred pretty much overnight until early hours of this morning. So we have done an initial sweep through that area, and we have done a secondary sweep, and we're feeling pretty comfortable that almost everybody is out of that area. We're pretty assured of that. So this morning, we're hoping when the water levels start coming down a little bit more, that we can get out there safely and do a third sweep and just make sure everybody's out of that area. So the problem last night was with the rushing water and low water levels. You know, it's hard to navigate a boat through rushing water that's a low level. When you only got a foot of water and you got a boat that's got a prop, it's hard to navigate through that area. But we have Sioux Falls Swiftwater Rescue Team down here. We have several teams from Game Fish and Parks down here. They have very extensive training on doing this type of work. So that's kind of why I thank those volunteers. They came in and said, we're here to assist. They're very well trained people, and they do the job very efficiently, better than we can do at a local level. So,
How many people had to be rescued out?
I do not know that exact number because, like I said, it was occurring all the way through the flood until the wee hours of this morning. So,
Is it just constantly around the lake or?
yes, just that area around North Shore.
We got time for one more.
I guess, Governor, do you have a message for those that are directly impacted, especially those who've lost their homes?
Yeah, I'm thankful that we, you know, if you remember throughout this entire incident, we did have one loss of life. And so the perspective of how dangerous this is becoming very real for that family. And for every family, I hope that they'll continue to keep their personal safety and their family as utmost importance of getting into a safe situation and staying out of flood waters. And I know a lot of families have lost their personal property. They've had damage to their homes. It's going to impact them for weeks and months and yet to come. And we're just deeply grieved by what we see as far as damage and what they'll have to deal with. But we'll be walking alongside them and be offering all the resources that we possibly can to help them get back to normal as soon as possible, as soon as we see these high waters recede and move out of the area. So we'll continue to communicate with them. Please stay tuned on road closures. SD511.org is where you go on road closures and other notices. Continue to follow all of our social media pages. I do want to thank Jason for doing a fantastic job as an emergency management director. He's done a great job in coordinating everybody and being the lead on this operation in this area, and it's been fantastic. So with that, did you have something?
Just real quick, Jeff Dooley with,
Mm-hmm.
in this case, Dakota Dunes School,
Yep.
Dakota Valley School District. The school is also being impacted.
Okay.
It's on North Shore Drive. They can't get to the elementary school, and they're assessing the damage now, so that's another part of this
Okay.
equation we'll have to look at.
Yep. Yeah. So when you get in there, let us know what you're seeing as far as impact and damage, and that'll be approached differently.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.